I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hey, you. Welcome back to I'm Sorry, Okay? A podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary here with Paul and LD. This week we watched Season 2, Episode 3 of Degrassi Junior High, Great Expectations. This episode is written by Jan Moore, directed by Kit Hood, and originally aired on January 18th, 1988. Content warning for this episode. We will be discussing sexual coercion and manipulation. If those topics are difficult for you, you may want to skip this one. So, in this episode, Joey sets his sights on Liz, a new girl with a wild haircut and new wave clothes, which give her a reputation for promiscuity. Meanwhile, Arthur is alarmed by the onset of puberty.
Why are men?
Why are men? Exactly. So we open with new girl Liz and her mom talking with Doris in the office. Doris is asking questions about Liz's old school while typing the answers on a typewriter. Stephanie interrupts to make an announcement for the student council, but Doris tells her she's in the middle of something, so Steph has to wait and stands there staring at Liz and her mom.
Preps versus Goths.
Yeah, we're already getting into the preps versus Goths, except that I actually felt like Liz and Steph looked like they would be friends.
Like, really, honestly, Liz doesn't look that different from anybody else at the school, especially when you consider that they're all friends with Spike.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. And no one ever really says anything about Spike or the way that she looks.
It's funny though, Liz immediately looks at Steph like she is dog shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Steph does just completely interrupt them. She's just like, hey, I have to make an announcement. She just struts in. Oh, and also Steph is back to her old clothing. She's got a kind of a tube. She kind of looks like Wonder Woman, actually. She's got a tube top and a skirt and this big metal belt.
Oh, yeah. I loved the belt.
The belt is really good.
I feel like I had a lot of novelty belts for a while. Thrift stores were very kind to me in that regard.
So Steph's so far she's actually looking pretty good, but
Liz can track that she's an asshole. So
that she's an asshole and that she's a preppy.
Yeah.
Even though honestly, Liz, other than the haircut, Liz doesn't seem that far from a preppy herself.
Yeah. Other than
but
Liz's this is England, I'm gonna stomp your head in haircut.
I mean, Liz is ready to stomp a head in, I feel like, too, but that feels like another.
Oh, when
we'll
we see
there.
her get angry.
Okay, but
out.
to be fair, when she gets angry,
justified.
it's super justified and super powerful. But until then, I'm actually very bored by her teenage angst. Because I'm just so far nothing's happened. Calm down. Save it. Save it for when it matters, babe.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No one's really bullying her or anything like that. But we'll get more into it. So also in this scene, Joey happens to be leaving the principal's office while all of this is going on. So Doris asks him to show Liz where Mr. Radich's class is. And once they're alone, Joey immediately asks Liz out, but we don't get her answer. And actually, before they go off together, it's kind of funny because we have Joey's previous crush and his new crush. And Steph is kind of watching this interaction between the two of them. And she looks a little, even though she doesn't have feelings for Joey and she previously was using him, basically, she still looks a little put off by the fact that he's now paying attention to Liz in the way that he used to pay attention to her.
I was just waiting for Paul to interject and be like, do you mean revenge flirting? She was revenge flirting with him.
Oh my God. How could I have forgotten her revenge flirting? Well, and Liz, I think Liz is too distracted by how much she thinks Steph sucks that she's not able to zero in on how much more Joey sucks. So that's unfortunate for her.
I mean, Steph is literally just standing there staring at her and her mom as they have what is essentially a private conversation.
Yeah, because her mom's trying to get her to give the school a chance, and she's trying to get Liz maybe a little more excited to be there.
I mean, yeah, being the new kid sucks. First day at a new school sucks. but there's nothing, we don't know specifically like what the problem is with Degrassi other than it's apparently full of preppies and dorks.
Goobers, perhaps.
Yeah.
Definitely goobers.
Joey also introduces himself as the #1 cool dude at Degrassi. Oh, I'm sorry. First he says, Joey Jeremiah, chairman of the welcoming committee, at your service.
Yes,
and then
add that to the
later,
list.
later calls himself the #1 cool dude at Degrassi, which I actually think he has some competition for later on in this episode.
Oh, just a little.
Just a little competition.
Oh my
That's
God,
just
I'm actually so excited to hear what this
a
is.
little spoiler for later.
So far, we've discussed nothing that's happening right now. We've only talked about what's happening later.
I mean, there's really not much going on at the moment. Oh, although I did also enjoy that Doris is like typing up files like on an actual typewriter.
Yeah. She's
like
living that like Dolly Parton 9-to-5 life.
Oh, absolutely. So next we have the Zit Remedy is talking before school about how Simon wants to play soccer instead of playing in their band. Joey asks Snake and Wheels what they think of that Liz chick, and they think she's kind of weird and quiet because she doesn't really talk to anyone, but she does talk to Joey. After she goes inside, Joey asks,
I think she does it. She looks like she does it.
Yeah, here's what I want to know. What could he possibly have heard and from whomst? She doesn't talk to anybody. She has moved from an hour away where he likely knows no one. And I'll go into her hometown later because I obviously had to look it up. But also I love here that like Wheels interjects and is just like,
Joey, what's a girl who does it supposed to look like?
yeah. And we kind of just blew through her first day. So this is like the next day at school. I don't know if I mentioned that, but so it's been one day. And already Joey has like amassed all of this information apparently.
he has nothing.
He's got nothing. There's no way. If he heard anything, it's a lie. And he should know that.
And not that it would be justified if she were dressing a certain way, but just from, like we were saying, from the way that she looks, I don't even know why he's like drawing these conclusions. Like he's really just pulling this out of nowhere. She's basically just a girl, and that's why he thinks she looks like she does it.
She is a girl. She has bare shoulders.
Scandalous.
We're in the fucking scarlet letter now.
So Wheels and Snake kind of start to walk away from this conversation.
They're immediately done with Joey in this episode.
But Joey kind of stops them and asks if they ever think about really having sex. And they think about it a bit and sometimes, but Joey thinks about it all the time.
We know.
Newsflash. Shocking. A revelation.
And also, Snake calls Simon a narbo.
Yes.
I really enjoy that, like, for all of the, like, band drama that was going on in the previous episode, it's sort of just like a throwaway, like, he just doesn't want to do it, actually. Never mind.
It's just solved with, like, a very quick bit of expository dialogue, which is also how they resolved Jason Cox being gone. It's how they resolved Vula being gone. It's just super quick. It's like, and Vula moved away. It's like,
some like middle school dude absolutely would be that fickle and just be like, oh yeah, I mean, I thought I wanted to play bass in your band, but actually no, I don't care about your band at all.
So now we're going to kind of talk about our C plot before we get to the B plot because they just kind of come up in that order. But so Alex finds Steph in the hallway and asks to talk to her about the financial problems at the student council because he wants to show her some ideas. Steph tells him that they'll have to talk about it later because she's busy and goes into the bathroom to probably change into her second outfit for the day.
They do an okay job of, like, for me, like, Steph is off the hook for this one for being, like, kind of rude to Alex because it feels like he kind of ambushes her in the hallway and maybe she really does have to go to the bathroom. And so she's just like, bro, schedule some time. Like, we'll take care of this.
It's just kind of funny to refer to I have to go to the bathroom as being busy. I'm busy right now.
listen, when you have to take off like 7 layers of pants It can take you a while. She's got so many outfits. She has to peel them back.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like the only thing that Steph is improving during her presidency is in her ability to blow people off. She's like more professional at basically, she doesn't ever want to talk to anyone about anything related to student council. But she's getting like more professional in how she gets out of those situations.
Well, yeah.
An excellent skill, really.
Yeah, I mean, last season she tried kind of the Trump approach of like, I don't like you, I don't care about you, so I will not talk to you. But this season she's going for the Joe Biden. She's like, I see you, I hear you, but I still don't give a fuck about you.
Solidly Democrat. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I actually remember this one time in 6th grade. I was talking to some dude after class, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll wait. And he waited outside of the bathroom the whole time I was in there.
Nope.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that. So at least Alex has enough sense to like back off.
I mean, you do have to feel a little bit bad for Steph that people just like walk up to her during passing period
Exactly.
Yeah.
and are just
I'm
like,
saying.
we have to talk about this. And she's just like, dude, save it for the student council meeting. We'll both be there.
Yeah, our scheduled time.
Which she could have also said like, let's talk about it at the next meeting, because she kind of like, she doesn't really help him out by just saying later, because that's
True.
like pretty vague. And as we see, he then just finds her later, which is also not a good time for her. But yeah, it is true that like, yeah, it probably is kind of annoying to have people just randomly approaching you.
It's never later enough for Steph.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so then we have our Arthur and Yick B plot. Yick finds Arthur in the library and tells him he's been looking all over for him. Arthur very obviously hides the book he's been reading under his backpack. Yick asks him what's going on.
Perfect hiding spot.
Another classic Arthur hiding place.
At least he didn't put it behind his back, but yeah, it still doesn't totally track. Yick asks him what's going on because he's been acting weird lately. And Arthur tells him that he's been having wet dreams once a week and he's worried that he's turning into a sex maniac.
I believe he says like, I've been having weird dreams. It kind of describes it a little bit, which I don't want to get into because I hate his language that he uses. It's super gross. But then Yick, zero tact whatsoever, is like, oh, you mean wet dreams? Super loud in the library.
Where everyone goes to eavesdrop, and Kathleen is
library.
standing right there and like
Yes.
makes a face. Yeah.
I mean, Kathleen was going to make a face no matter what they were talking about. Let's be honest about that one.
True. Oh, and the book that Arthur is reading is The Color Atlas of Human Anatomy.
He's just reading like a basics of anatomy book to try and like get, but okay, let's back it up, because I actually love that for him, that he's like, we see throughout the episode that really all he wants is information. And so he's just a dumb boy. And so he's like, I'll find a book in the library.
Find a science
Yeah.
book. Also,
Like,
there's
sure.
no internet. You can't ask
Yeah.
Google. What are these kids supposed to do?
It's true.
I love it. I actually enjoy this plot. It's charming.
Yick is honestly the best person, even though Yick hasn't really, I think they talk about this a little later, but Yick hasn't really had this experience himself. But he's very, like, supportive, and he's very much like, I think that's normal. Like, the whole time he's just like, that sounds pretty normal to me.
He kind
Yeah.
of just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay.
Yeah.
He's not going to make fun of him. He doesn't make him feel weird. He's not like, yeah, actually, you are a pervert, dude. He's just like, I think it's fine.
Yeah, seems fine. But yeah.
I, for one, am all in on this non-wacky B plot.
So now let's move away from it. So in Radich's class, he's assigning team research projects and tells the class that they'll be working in pairs and will be marked on their research and on how well they work together. While he's talking, Joey is staring at Liz from across the room like a total creep.
Don't like it.
Leering is the word that
Leering.
Leering.
Yes. The framing is like they're so far apart, but the framing is honestly disturbing, and Joey is clearly already like formulating. He's got Liz in his sights and he's formulating a plan, even though they haven't actually spent that much time even talking to each other at this point.
I feel like we have 3 instances now of like I'm able to kind of understand the situation. So we had Alex coming up to Steph and Steph being annoyed, and I would say reasonably being like, back off. So, but that goes downhill. Yick is just sort of like, I don't care about this problem. And it doesn't go downhill from there. But it's sort of like a funny introduction. And then I'd say Joey is actually kind of smooth in the way that he asks Liz to be like a partner in this project. Like, I think, again, like Stephanie's situation, it goes downhill from here. But the way he just is sort of like, hey, we should be like partners, whatever. Like, he's kind of chill about it. He's like,
right.
He's doing his thing. He's working his Joey magic.
Yeah, they do get to choose their own partners, and after class, Wheels asks Joey if he wants to be partners, but Joey just kind of like motions over at Liz and then goes to ask her instead. And she agrees, and then Joey tells her that he's going to meet her in the resource center after lunch. Is the resource center different from the library? I couldn't totally tell.
I couldn't really tell either. It seemed ambiguous.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't just me, because I kept writing like resource center or library, and then I was like, I'm not sure if they're in different places or not.
I think one thing that I kept thinking at this point in the episode was just like, oh my God, he's like is so into her, and he's so, he's scheming to be near her and stuff. And then I realized like this absolutely tracks for an 8th grader. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you remember when you would just like wake up one day, see a human person and be like, I like them now?
I guess that's what I mean. Like the way that like this is starting, it feels real enough. And I feel like for the situation, he's being kind of cool about it.
It's not necessarily wrong to see someone, to be interested in them, to want to spend time with them. Exactly. But I think it's like once they start actually working on this project, that's where the problems start. And the way that he's looking at her is more of a red flag than actually being problematic. So like I get what you're saying, Paul. In this scene, there's nothing actually like, it's pretty like a pretty normal like series of interactions for the scene.
In the linear terms of the episode, like where we're at right now, okay.
Yeah, and I think like it's very reasonable, even if he did want to have sex with her, whatever, and it asks her to be his partner for this project. Like it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to act on that at this point. You know what I mean? Like we don't know that he's
right.
I mean, you can kind of guess because it's Degrassi that like there has to be a lesson.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a lot to like watch this with the context of knowing the characters, but then also trying to think about it in terms of like what is this scenario in a more broad sense, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like, I think as we've talked about in previous episodes, like so many young women have experienced this kind of coercion or, like scheming, manipulation and stuff like that. And I think they're doing a really good job at showing this also from like Liz's perspective, where she doesn't know anybody at this school. She doesn't have any allies yet. She can't ask anybody. You know what I mean? Like she's brand new and she has absolutely no preconception. But yeah, I think that they're doing a really good job of showing it from Joey's perspective of like, wow, there's someone new at the school. Maybe even like to him, it's like, this is a fresh start. Like everyone here knows me. They know that I'm kind of, I don't know. What would you, he's not a nerd, but he strikes out.
She doesn't know his history with Stephanie.
Yeah.
He strikes out. No, you had it. He just he constantly strikes out and he knows.
I mean, that's basically what Snake says to him later too.
Yes.
But yes, she doesn't know any of his history, and so from her perspective, he's like the only person at Degrassi that seems to be going out of his way to really talk to her. And when he does talk to her, he's being very flattering, like extremely charming. And I will say, I do think it's a bit of a thing, like, when you're a new kid, even like with Stephanie and Simon, I think there's this idea of like wanting to like be the first person to like claim, quote unquote, a new kid at school. Like, I like them first, or like I want to be the first one to talk to them, like whatever. So I think there's some of that going on, but like with Stephanie, it's obviously way less insidious than with Joey, because also Steph isn't like trying to have sex or create a situation where she can have sex with Simon. She's maybe trying to create a situation where they hang out together, they go on a date or something like that. But yeah, like Joey's motives are they're less like innocuous.
There was that added layer of Simon represented also something finally going right for her and her achieving the thing she set out to do.
Right.
Also gross.
Yes, super gross. Hate it, actually, but I think it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Arthur and Yik are eating lunch together on the front steps talking about wet dreams again. Yik thinks it's normal to have them, even though he hasn't had any himself. Arthur wishes he had someone to talk to about it, and Yik tells him to talk to his dad, but Arthur thinks his dad would think he was a pervert.
Poor buddy. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I really like how supportive Yik is being, though. He's talking to him about it. He's normalizing it. He's letting him know he can talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ish.
Also, Yik is eating a banana during this conversation. Is this intentional or
Oh
no?
God, I did.
It has to be.
Oh God.
But also just a healthy part of any lunch.
He needs some potassium.
Yeah, he's growing. All right, so also during this lunch scene, Spike notices Liz sitting alone, eating in the grass, and goes over to introduce herself. Liz thinks the kids at Degrassi are snotty, but Spike thinks they're okay once you get to know them. Liz asks if Spike is really pregnant, and then tells her she will never get pregnant. Never!
What a way to introduce yourself to someone who's trying to be your friend and trying to be nice. First of all, when Spike's like, is it okay if I sit here? Liz is like, it's a free country. And then she sits down and like, Spike's just like, are you liking Degrassi so far? You know what I mean? Like, she's trying to be nice to her and reach out to her. And like, Liz is like, everyone's snobby. I can't believe it. And I think the funny thing here is that, first of all, we've seen no evidence that anyone is judging her or being snobby to her in any way.
Steph looking at her. But that's like...
But also Steph doesn't say anything. I don't
know.
I'm here to defend the person with the bad attitude. I kind of love that she's just like, you know what? Fuck this place. Fuck these people. I don't care. I hate y'all.
She's like, fuck Degrassi Junior High. This show sucks.
I don't need to see anything. I know I hate you.
Well, and she said where she came from, she had a ton of friends and no one cared how you dressed or acted. As soon as she's 16, she's moving back. And Spike is like so sweet, and she's like, well, I think you'll like it here by then. Like, Spike is just trying to kind of be like, it's not that bad. I think you'll like it eventually. Like, I'm obviously cool. I came over to talk to you. But yeah, Liz has a pretty bad attitude.
Just like a lot of projection is going on. Like, she's judging everyone based on how they dress and what they look like, and then being like, they're all judging me based on what I look like. Just a quick diversion, which is Spike asks Liz where she's from. She says Linden. So I looked it up. Linden is part of a district called Flamborough, which is then itself part of Hamilton, which we've heard discussed. And it is like, it's just another city in Ontario, and it's like an hour from Toronto. And as of kind of the most recent count, there are 500 residents. So I don't think Liz had that many friends there. There couldn't have been that many kids.
I also feel like, so Liz is coming from, she grew up there, so she probably had friends because she had been going to school with the same kids for years and years and years.
Tight-knit community.
So, even if she got some kind of like wild haircut or her, her crazy double tank tops, like she already knew those kids. So going into a new situation, it's like, well, of course you don't have like friends here. It's like your second day of school. And she doesn't even bother to be like, ask Spike, like, so who do you hang out with? Or like, what do you do around here? Or like, any questions that would like improve her experience at all. She's just mad, which also
it's more fun to be mad.
I mean, yeah, I was like, anytime I was a new kid, I was also mad and thought that my school was full of a bunch of preppies. But if someone cool did go out of their way to talk to me, that's when you kind of have to like check your attitude a little bit, because you do have to try to make new friends. And like Spike, I think, is a little bit, Spike has her friends, but she also just seems like, maybe because Spike feels a little bit like an outsider at this point herself, just because she's pregnant. And even though her friends have been supportive, it's something that makes her different. So I think she sees like, okay, Liz is like also feeling kind of different. So I'm going to like reach out here.
I wonder though if Liz is like, oh, no one's even talking to me. The best I got was like the pregnant girl. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if Liz is kind of resentful.
Well, and you're right. Like, if she had just been chill and like Mary, like you said, like actually just talked to Spike, she probably would have been saved from going any further in her relationship with Joey. They probably would have talked about it sooner before Liz actually started to think that maybe she likes this guy. So yeah, I mean, in a technical sense, you're correct. But in a more fun sense, I still think it's cool that she just hates everyone at Degrassi.
Yeah, I mean, she's also like, what, a 14-year-old or something, and she just had to like move. She didn't want to. She didn't move somewhere like cooler necessarily. It sounds like she moved to like a similar but different kind of place. So she's just in her like feelings still, and she's just kind of salty.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So then we have Joey wheels Snake, and who I think is the number one cool dude at Degrassi, playing catch and talking about chicks.
BLT. I think this is the first time we're seeing him.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know that he's named, because I feel like I was starting to feel like there's an issue of like a lot of the black characters on this show tend to not be named. They're always like a friend, and they'll like show up a couple times, but they never are part of like a direct interaction.
Yep, it's the same with disabled people. Like the girl who's a wheelchair user is also not named. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's like, well, we're doing the bare minimum of like representation, but like, doesn't matter if you're not actually giving speaking parts or like storylines or anything like that. But I'm happy to know that at least like later on. So BLT.
Yeah, BLT, and he does have his own plot lines.
Cool.
Okay. So Joey is kind of taunting his friends, saying he's going to make it with Liz, but then they all roast him, and Snake tells him that when it comes to girls, he's all talk, no action.
I can see it. Liz invites you over to her house. Her parents are out. The lights are dim. Soft music is playing. She leans over, and Joey screams, "No, no, I'm a virgin."
I mean, okay. I feel like this is really similar to when we're like, all right, Melanie, almost. Because, like, this tracks for me as, like, something a middle school dude would say to another middle school dude. And everyone making fun of him for being a virgin or whatever. But also, I think it would be maybe instead of it being that they're making fun of him for being a virgin, just pointing out the fact that he's never done anything and he should shut up. As opposed to just, like, and haha.
Because they're all virgins as far as we know.
Yeah.
And I think that, and Snake also calls him
Joey Jeremiah, Mr. All-Time Loser when it comes to girls.
That's not true. You're such a liar.
Damn.
Yeah, Snake drags his ass.
But it's true. He hasn't even been on a date.
But I will say, while Snake is cutting a promo on Joey, he is wearing my look of the week.
Hey!
Oh! He is wearing this like pink, horizontally striped, tie-dyed shirt.
Yes.
And these patterned, they're shorts, right? They're not pants.
I think they're shorts.
And also his hair's just looking good. Snake is killing it. I love his pattern mixing. I think it's just super good. I love that. I love to imagine that maybe he has made this tie-dye shirt possibly at summer camp. I'm I'm just spitballing here. I love it. All around, no notes. Love this look.
It's really good.
It's a good look. And actually, BLT is wearing my look of the week.
Oh!
Which is like a black t-shirt with a white Max Headroom print and a white hat with the brim flipped up. I did not know. Paul, can you tell us about this character? I did not know who this character was on his shirt.
I don't actually really know anything specifically about Max Headroom, but
Okay.
I do know that Max Headroom is part of a small piece of Chicago history. So in November of 1987, so right around this time, the local public television station WTTW and Chicago's WGN-TV signals were both hijacked for 90 seconds by someone wearing a Max Headroom mask. It was never explained. There was never and this is why, there was no reason. It just kind of happened. And this was back when there weren't many TV networks. So I think a lot of people, and these are two major TV networks in Chicago, especially at this time. So no real explanation there, but someone just took a little minute and a half of everyone's day to have everyone learn who Max Headroom is. You can find the video on YouTube. It exists.
Apparently, he hosted a music video program, this like AI character, and he was conceived of by creator Rocky Morton as, quote, the most boring thing I could think of to do. A talking head, a middle-class white male in a suit talking to them in a really boring way about music videos.
Hell yeah.
That's great.
Well,
it's a cool shirt.
It's a cool shirt. BLT loves it. I love it because he loves it.
And we love BLT.
And we love BLT.
Before, I don't know if we're going to move on from the scene. It feels like we might be. But before we do, I do want to point out that everything I said about Joey and like how it might be like okay or whatever I was talking about, I don't even remember because it was all bullshit. Because he goes into full on heel mode right in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
With the line,
Chicks are like aspirin. I take 2 and go to bed.
I mean,
the fucking, he's like the dice man over it. Oh!
It's what he's doing, right? He's treating women like they're just interchangeable objects. Like
Literal
Steph was the
objects.
object of his affection, and now it's Liz. And he never really he never knows anything about them specifically, except that he's attracted to them, and so that's where his attention is.
he never really seems to like anything specific about them. Because, yeah, as you're saying, they're just interchangeable.
Horrific.
We had to endure this scene, but we will be rewarded for it later. Over in the hallway, Steph and the twins are making a genius plan for Steph to drop her books as Simon walks by, when Alex interrupts them to suggest putting on an art show or doing a car wash to raise money for the student council.
The art show is actually genius. Like, I think that's a super good idea. A++ to Alex.
It's like really embarrassing for Steph that she's still trying to come up with schemes to like get Simon's attention instead of just talking to him.
Right?
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, we can see that these children don't know how to communicate with each other. So, like, none of them.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I guess I had kind of thought of this episode being about sex, but I think now, thinking back on it and having heard you just say that, like, I think the whole episode is about communication. It's
like multifaceted, yeah.
But you know what I mean?
It's
All three
definitely about boys ding dongs though. Like, these dudes are obsessed with their own.
At the center, it dominates the center of like every conversation you try to have about sex.
My word. Boys.
Boys, except for Alex, he's got business on his mind.
And, I'm just going to really quick say that we saw it in a previous scene, but we get a better look of Alex, who is wearing my look of the week.
Oh.
I just love the baseball tee with the Degrassi logo, the white with the blue like sleeves, and what color red would that print be? I'm not totally sure. It's just like a deep red,
Like
not
a
quite a
maroon.
maroon. Is it a maroon? I love a good maroon print. He just still looks like he's heavily involved in the early 2000s Chicago DIY scene, and I love it.
I
Yeah,
want this shirt so
good.
bad. I want
It's
this
good.
whole look. I want those
Yeah. The
glasses.
glasses. Yeah.
Okay, so Steph tells Alex to beat it when she sees Simon and BLT coming, but he tells her that she shouldn't treat him like that since he's a school treasure. And when she drops her books, Alex picks them up instead.
He's pulling the purse strings and he's picking up the books.
He's just trying to help in every way.
He's a worker bee.
He just seems kind of baffled when she just drops her books and just starts picking them up, of course, because he's a nice kid.
And he's standing right there. So he's like, let me help you with that.
And obviously Simon does not appear to be making any moves to pick them up. He just kind of looks.
He kind of shrugs in a weird way.
He would have to push Alex out of the way in order to help in this scenario. So like, what?
Weird. What a bad
Stephanie.
plan.
No.
Stupid.
But I'm sure we've all been there where you're just trying to get attention from someone that you got a little crush on. So
Yeah.
is that just me? No, that might just be me.
She used the book dropping once before with Wheels when they were going to go on their date.
Oh,
Get
I
his attention
forgot about
class.
that. Wait,
This is
like
her
from the
move. This is
Stephanie
her
K
signature
playbook.
move. Yeah. She can't slide into Simon's DMs and send him like a dope astrology meme,
Unfortunate.
which is what
But
I'd
you know,
be doing.
she could ask him about the project that they're working on. She could, ask if he wants to eat lunch with her friends. Like, I don't know. It just seems like there's so many other things that she could do that are not dropping books or
She could
asking if he
Ask
was
him
in a
for his
commercial.
birth time and make an
Yes.
analog birth chart and then
Yes.
talk to him about it.
I mean, that seems like the kind of thing she would need to outsource to Vula, who
Yeah,
is
she doesn't
unfortunately
like- Oh,
no
no, Vula-
longer
Vula
here to
thinks-
pick up the slack.
Okay, Vula most likely thinks that astrology is like dark magic. I think the twins definitely, and Lucy. I bet Lucy
Oh.
knows all about astrology.
So in the next scene, Melanie is talking to a friend about menstrual cycles, and Kathleen is offended.
Of course she is.
She asks her where she gets this stuff, and Melanie tells her about a sex advice radio show that she listens to called Dr. Sally.
Hell yeah.
Melanie's awesome. She's like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not going to learn
cool.
about this shit from my mom. I'm going to listen to Dr. Sally.
She listens to Dr. Sally. They're specifically talking about like the average length of like between menstrual cycles.
Which is a super informative thing that I feel like nobody tells you when you take sex ed. Everyone's always just
Mhm.
like, and once a month you will get your period. And that's like it.
Right, but you do kind of have to, you can track like when that's likely to be, or you can tell if there's an issue, like, with Spike, for example, she probably noticed that she wasn't getting her period. So Melanie is out there trying to inform the masses and tell them about Dr. Sally.
Honestly,
and
good for her. She should be getting a commission.
She should. However, Yick overhears them talking and asks when the show is on and if anyone can call in. And then everyone makes fun of him and asks him if he has a sexual problem, even though they were just talking about how it's a good show for learning about sex.
Yeah, what?
Double standard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also, Kathleen is like so repulsed by the idea of this show even existing. Like, you just know that Kathleen believes in abstinence-only sex education.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she doesn't even think that Spike should be allowed to attend high school.
Like, the whole point of the show is to reduce stigma, and then Melanie immediately stigmatizes someone calling into the very show that she listens to.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry.
Some random girl is like, yeah, Yick, you have a sexual problem.
Paul, you listened to Loveline, didn't you?
Oh, I did too.
Regularly, both of you. I did. I watched it and I listened to it. But how did you find listening to it? Like, did you feel like you learned things?
Yeah, I think in retrospect, it probably, because we'll hear what Dr. Sally has to say. And I think Dr. Sally is more of a like earnest, straightforward sex advice, like kind of person. Loveline, I mean, as an adolescent, I think it was fun to listen. It was like I think their strength was generating like exciting and like kind of fast-paced content for the radio. And so it made it more engaging and it made me want to listen. But I mean, thinking about some of the advice now and some of the ways that they handled it, I don't know if I would say I could like, if it were still on, I don't think I would say I'd be able to like recommend it, you know?
In hindsight, it was like really misogynistic and like a lot of like stigma. I had a boyfriend who would kind of like use things from Loveline against me. So I think that it kind of had a lot of like
audacity.
Oh, absolutely. And so it was kind of like toxic masculinity. Absolutely. Like that was like the vibe of that show. So yeah, I think it's good that these Degrassi kids have someone more positive to like listen to than like two men who are like trying to be kind of like edgy.
And this character is actually a real like sex advice like person, Dr. Sue Johansson. I think I remember seeing her on Conan O'Brien. Like she was around in like kind of the early 2000s. She was cool.
Yeah.
So we'll transition now into our more problematic storyline.
Great.
Joey and Liz are working on their project together in the library. Or at least Liz is working while Joey is repeatedly hitting on her while she asks him to stop.
I like your hair. I like your hair.
So the bell rings, and since they didn't get a lot done, she asks if Joey wants to meet there again after school. But Joey tells her that the school closes at 4 and his grandparents are visiting, so they can't go to his place. So kind of by default, Liz invites him over to her place to finish the project.
If we hadn't seen him have that conversation with the dudes while they were playing catch earlier, this wouldn't seem gross. It would just seem like he was honestly giving her information, like the school closes at 4 and we can't use my house. And maybe both of those things are still true. But because of the conversation, and you know that he's got Snake's head or Snake's voice in the back of his head, you know, calling him a loser,
egging him on.
Yeah. Like you think of this as, okay, well, he's kind of setting the scene here. He's sort of forcing her to invite him over to her house.
Hence the manipulation content warning.
Yeah. And this project is due tomorrow. So they really do have to figure out like how to finish it today. And so yeah, it is kind of like, did Joey specifically not help at all so that they wouldn't finish it during, you know, this hour or whatever that they spent working on it? Does the school really close at 4?
That was unclear.
I feel like maybe.
Okay.
Where do we remember when Spike and Vula and LD were working on that group project? They were waiting for LD after school, but I can't remember if they were going to work at school or if they were meeting up to go work somewhere else.
I think they were meeting up to walk around because it was a mapping project, but I would then counter with what time was the Great Race in season 1? Because that was after school and they all had to like change into swim gear. I'm wondering if the school is only open for like sporting events and regularly they close at 4.
I thought Joey was just lying about the school closing, but yeah, it does seem like maybe the school does close at 4.
Doris has to go home sometime.
Yeah, Doris can't spend her whole life at the school. So after he and Liz part ways, Joey finds his friends and he tells them that Liz invited him over to her place to study, leaving out the part where he didn't really give her any other options for working on their project that is due tomorrow.
He calls himself a super stud.
Yeah, he does.
Because he's been invited over to work on homework. A notorious aphrodisiac.
Yeah, like nothing. I don't want to get ahead of myself because Joey will kind of explain later where he thinks this is all going. Oh, but not only does he call himself a super stud, but he also says at her service.
I hate it.
Oh, and we also find out that Liz's mom works evenings. So she's just telling him this to let him know, like, it'll be quiet at her place. They can study there. But I don't know if he's taking this as a sign of like, oh, and there won't be any parents around.
I think he absolutely takes that as an implication that she wants to sleep with him.
Ugh.
Even though she has literally done or said nothing to give him that impression whatsoever. She clearly is just trying to finish this project.
She just wants to do her homework. And like in normal times, having your grandparents in your house doesn't mean you can't have someone over to do homework. Like they could easily be doing this project in the kitchen or in his room or something. So he
Right.
was definitely angling for this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because her house isn't totally like set up even. Like they're still like unpacking and stuff, so it doesn't necessarily make sense to do it at her place, but that's kind of the only option.
And you can see that she's kind of uncomfortable with it too, because she even says to him, like, when she gives him the address for it, she's like, it's not very nice. You know what I mean? Like she's
right.
She's
Yeah.
defensive up front because you can see that she's uncomfortable with having him over.
So meanwhile, Arthur and Yick are trying to figure out where they can call Dr. Sally from where their dads won't hear them. And Yick has an idea. I don't think he says what it is, though, does he?
No, but
that's like the extent of the scene.
We do get a broom head from Yick in this scene.
Yes. It's also funny. I think they're both specifically worried about their dads like overhearing them.
Fair enough,
Which I don't know what that's about, but
okay. Put yourself in the shoes of a 14-year-old. Do you want your parents hearing you calling into a sex show?
Seriously, Mary, come on.
I
Have
just
some
mean,
intuition.
why the dads? Oh, maybe Arthur's at his dad's house. I was like, why do they not care about their moms overhearing them?
Moms have never heard of wet dreams.
No, moms don't know anything about it. After school, Liz gives Joey her address. Joey says he has some stuff to do, so he'll meet her there later. Liz sees Spike and asks her,
Spike, what do you think of Joey?
He can be a real jerk sometimes, but he's okay.
Yeah? I think he's kind of funny. Sort of nice, too. Spike, I like him.
This is actually kind of a moment for Spike to be like, just so you know, he's kind of a sex pest. I feel like Spike really lets Liz down in this regard because I feel like everybody knows that he was constantly following Steph around. He's just kind of
she doesn't give enough of a warning. Like
it's
he's
not
a jerk, but he's
specific
okay.
enough. Yeah, because he's a jerk could mean kind of anything.
He's a jerk could refer to the New Zealand Zappers. He's a jerk could refer to
bullying Melanie about her body, her body shaming Melanie.
Oh my God, yes, I totally forgot about that. And also, as we later find out in that episode, Snake too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does seem like because Liz is about to spend time alone with Joey, she is kind of like, hey, is this guy okay? But I don't think that Spike necessarily gets why she's asking. And so that's maybe why she doesn't really give her the advice that we're talking about that would have been more helpful to know when you're about to be alone with a dude with like your mom isn't there. Like this is kind of like potentially like a dangerous situation for Liz to be in.
Yeah, definitely.
And it could have easily gone into like a really negative.
They could have gone dark.
Yeah, it could have been pretty dark because Joey like really just has one thing on his mind. So yeah, it's unfortunate that they don't have a real conversation, but also they're new friends. So it's probably just something that, you know, she and Liz aren't even thinking about sex necessarily because why would they? Like, it doesn't seem like an actual potential outcome of this study date. Like,
no, I've never invited someone over to do homework thinking that sex would happen.
No.
But again, I was a nerd.
All right. So Joey finds Wheels and asks if he still has the condoms that he bought last term, but they actually use them all for water bombs.
Which is a much more appropriate use.
Fun.
Yeah, and also fun.
Sure.
Joey asks if Wheels wants to go buy some with him, but Wheels has to go study.
Yeah.
Yes.
Study. Sure. Uh-huh.
That's like Wheels' excuse to get out of like everything he doesn't want to do, and I absolutely love it.
It's so believable too.
Yeah,
Can't
and
question
also
it.
I wish that Wheels and Liz had actually teamed up on this project because it seems like they're actually the only two people working on it. So then Joey asks Wheels if he was nervous when he thought he and Steph were going to do it, and Joey admits that he's afraid of messing it up.
What if she doesn't want to? The way she dresses, the way she laughs at my jokes. She likes me. And she invited me over, right? It's pretty obvious, man. Is it, Joey?
Also,
Yeah, it's so
Joey at
obvious,
some point
dude.
says he has to. He's like, I'm in grade 8. Like I have to.
And I think this is when he
How?
mentions that he's never even been on a date.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
So it's like, seems like you're not really ready then, my man. Like, what?
really putting the cart before the horse here.
Yeah. And he's
Oh
like,
boy.
because of his insecurities, he's putting Liz into this like extremely uncomfortable situation who she's just like she could be anyone. Joey, when he's asking about the condoms, he's like, I just need one. So at least he's being sort of realistic. Even
He's
though he
like,
has
best case scenario.
Best case scenario, I need one. Even though he has no reason to think that anything sexual is going to happen. Also, he's like, she invited me over, but like he kind of tricked her into inviting him over. So he's
Yeah.
setting up this situation that he's using as his evidence to like
Yes.
confirm that she wants to like have sex with him.
This is
like-
entrapment.
Yes, and he's like, the way she laughs at my jokes, but partially it seemed like she was laughing because she was uncomfortable. When
Yeah.
they're working together in the library, he's like, he keeps hitting on her.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
she's
I'm dazzled by your beauty.
yeah, and she's kind of
Ugh.
laughing, but she's like, Joey, stop. Like, and it seems like that thing that like women sometimes do when they're uncomfortable in a situation, but they don't want to seem like a bitch. So she's trying to like laugh it off. But it's not laughing at his jokes. It's like laughing because he's making her uncomfortable.
Absolutely. That's all I read from that scene.
Yeah.
Is just the fact that she's clearly uncomfortable and trying to actually get him to stop. And she's laughing, but she's telling him to stop. And also, like, how many times have we heard stories or even experienced ourselves, a man who won't stop? It's really, it's difficult to gauge. You never know when, someone is being kind of sexually aggressive, what is going to happen if you say no or tell someone to stop. You have to do kind of a mental risk assessment and decide, like, is this the kind of person who's going to turn violent? Is this the kind of person who's going to be like, it was just a joke, and, try to laugh it off or gaslight you and make you feel like nothing happened? We've already kind of seen some of the ways that men respond to hearing no on this show. And really, like, the only person who kind of like thinks they're going to have sex, doesn't, and takes it all right is Wheels. Like, Wheels is just kind of like, oh, thank God, now I don't have to have sex.
And Wheels is the one who's like even considering, well, what if she doesn't want to?
Yeah,
Like,
Joey's
Joey's
even
not
thought
even
of that.
considering that.
No.
So Liz gets home from school and tells her mom that someone is coming over later to work on a project, but her mom doesn't like boys coming over when she's not around. Liz tells her mom,
You gotta trust me. Anyway, it's hard making friends at that dorky school.
She is just
All right.
trying to make a friend.
I think she's kind of like,
Yeah.
she's trying to make a friend and maybe more. Like, she kind of like
Sure.
is into him, but she's like just basically trying to get to know him.
We have no reason to think that like she's lying to her mom. Like she's like saying to her mom what she plans to do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely earnest on her end. She thinks
Yeah.
that a guy who she thinks is kind of funny, that she likes both as a friend and maybe more if they hang out more, is going to come over and do homework. They're going to finish their report, and then tomorrow they're going to hand it in, and that is it.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, she's basically like, we're working on a project. It's for school.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only other thing to note is her mom's getting ready for work, and it looks like she works at a restaurant, so that's probably why she's not around in the evenings. So Joey is buying a bunch of random stuff at the store, so it won't seem suspicious that he's also buying condoms.
Cool.
You guys, I love Degrassi condom buying scenes. They are my favorite. I would absolutely love for us to like compile them all.
Oh, yes.
I love them. And I don't know about you. Like, have you ever had to buy stuff that then you threw a bunch of other stuff in the cart or the basket so that you weren't embarrassed? Because I know I've definitely done it with pads when I was like in high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I think I remember getting my period at school or something and having to like go buy something. I also love that the loudspeaker that's telling you what all of the deals are all the things that Joey is selecting. So he's just getting
a sale on contraceptives.
He's hitting those bargains, baby. I bet Joey loves a like Sunday afternoon at like TJ Maxx. Like, you just know it.
He loves a deal.
But also, did you notice that when he gets to the checkout, that the lady who does the price check is the security guard from the mall?
Yes! I thought that was her.
Our hot security guard.
Okay, so first, when he's actually buying the condoms, there's like a nosy, like older couple staring at him, and then they end up in line behind him, like still staring at him. And then, yes, the cashier thinks the condoms are on sale. He calls for a price check, and then we get. So, do you think that the cashier has two jobs, that she's a mall cop and a cashier? Or do we think that she left the mall job and now she's working at this grocery store?
I don't know. But my more pressing question is, do we think that the cashier is trolling Joey when he's like, oh no, I'm just going to call on the price for this? I'm pretty sure. Like, wouldn't it just scan at the sale price? Why does he even go? Like, to me, it feels intentionally inexplicable that he like puts Joey through this rigmarole with these condoms.
He and the girl and the security guard, they do seem like they're kind of laughing to each other. Like, maybe this is how they prank teens who are buying condoms.
I'm going to answer all of these questions. Number one, I think that the security guard was like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of busting teenagers for like shoplifting a sweater. I don't want to be a fucking cop. And so she said ACAB. She dropped that mic. And she turned in that uniform, and now she's at the grocery store living her best life, price checking, trolling teenagers, but not like arresting them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, yes, he's absolutely trolling. I love it. I love to see it. And can I tell you about the condoms that Joey is buying?
Ooh, please do.
Please.
Okay. So Joey is buying the brand Chic, which I decided to look up just to see like if there was anything interesting about them. Because I was like, ooh, we get a brand name here. That's exciting. So Chic condoms were named for the film The Chic, which was made in 1921. It was a silent film, and it was originally starring Rudolph Valentino, and he played The Chic. And the tin that they originally came in like the, I think, 30s or something, actually had him on the tin. So I have a picture of that in our notes if anyone would like to look at it. And I will also be posting it on our social media. So if anyone is interested in looking at it, you absolutely should, on Twitter and Instagram at I'm Sorry Okay Pod, OKAY, baby.
Okay, so when I was looking at this and just scrolling through our notes, I shit you not, I just thought it was like tin of cigars. Like, I thought it was like a cigar tin or something.
Oh yeah, because they were long. They were a different shape.
What?
Wait, yeah, so I want to look at this. Oh, I
They
love
were just
this
packaged
tin
differently,
too.
but yeah, they're really nice, right?
You know, this tin would be really good for storing joints, actually.
I would agree. I could keep all manner of things in a tin like that.
So Arthur and Yick are listening to Dr. Sally on a boombox while they call her from a payphone.
Like they're on like season 1 of The Wire.
Yeah. And okay, I couldn't totally catch what Dr. Sally was saying, but she's kind of talking about how the way that a girl dresses doesn't necessarily say anything about her sexuality. So she specifically mentions like punk or like preppy girls. And then Arthur kind of starts like dialing the phone, but then we cut to the next scene.
Yeah, her advice sort of has something to do with the episode that we're watching right now. Wow.
Absolutely. It says something about being an easy lay.
And she also says something about not getting into sexual situations before you're ready, or kind of like basically not forcing a sexual situation.
Yes, we love Dr. Sally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We really do.
A+ advice. So Joey shows up to Liz's house and takes one condom out of the box and then puts the box back into the shopping bag and leaves the rest of his random groceries on her front porch.
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He bought a bunch of weird stuff, man.
Like, I was like, why didn't he just buy snacks and drinks? And then he could have been like, here's some chips and I brought you a Coke. I don't know.
And also, here's a condom.
Also, here's a condom and some paper towels.
He's not concerned with her experience at all. Is that
That's
like,
right. That's
come on.
true. And also when she invites him in, she offers him a drink and he reacts like he thinks she means alcohol. And she's like, I mean like a soda or something.
Yeah.
What?
LOL.
Oh,
embarrassing.
Joey.
All right. So back to Arthur.
Wait.
Did you have something else to say?
I just love the consistency that he loves a good trashed house.
It just looks like when you first move in somewhere, there's just boxes everywhere. But
he's just like, oh, yeah, your place is cool.
He's like, can't wait to have sex on top of these boxes.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so Arthur finally gets through to Dr. Sally, but he's too nervous to ask the question and is worried that someone might recognize his voice.
Fair, by the way. Very fair. Yeah. His classmates listen.
Arthur, I feel like, has a very distinctive way of speaking. So Yick grabs the phone and says,
I've got a friend who's 12 years old. He gets a lot of wet dreams. Is he a pervert?
It's so awesome. But then she's like unfazed and she just gives like real advice.
Yeah, Arthur gets mad and like hangs up the phone. But yeah, when they hear Dr. Sally's answer,
I'm not a pervert. You're a chicken is what you are. Well, you're a broomhead. I'm a broomhead. Look who's talking.
Oh, yeah. Wet dreams are very common for young guys. It's one of the first indications of puberty. So tell your friend he's perfectly okay. He's not a pervert. He's not an animal out of control. Wet dreams are the body's way of relieving sexual tension and sexual pressure.
They like low five and Arthur's over it.
We also get 2 broom heads in this scene.
Yes.
And I don't even think Yick wasn't calling Arthur a pervert, but that's what Arthur's concern is. Like, I think he was literally just trying to express his concern that like he's having a lot of wet dreams and he's worried that he's a pervert. But it is like really
Nah, and then Dr. Sally just totally legitimizes the whole goofy plot. Like, she just answers the question professionally. And then I think, like, very realistically, like, we see these 2 kids, like, feel relief. Like you said, they kind of low five. Like, they immediately, like, just calm down. They stop biting. They're just like, okay, Arthur has finally gotten the information that he was looking for in the basics of anatomy book that he had earlier.
I hope that he goes home and wet dreams about Dr. Sally.
Oh, dear.
Well, you know, she would think that's totally appropriate. Like, no, it's no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so from our positive sexual plot, we go back to Liz's house.
Back to the danger zone.
Yes, exactly.
Someone call Dr. Sally.
Call Dr. Sally.
Joey should have.
Or maybe 911. So Liz is still trying to work on the project while Joey just stares at her. He looks like he has something to say, so she asks him what it is, and then he asks her if she wants to do it.
Liz, do you want to do it?
Yeah.
She doesn't know what he means at first.
Do it.
Sex.
And when he tells her he's talking about sex, she gets really upset and kicks him out of her house, telling him that she hates him.
Yeah, good. The appropriate response. I love how she's just like, get out of my house. I hate you.
Look, I just thought...
Don't even try. Don't you touch me, Joey. Don't you ever touch me. Just get out of my house. Joey, I hate you.
In my notes, I wrote, which is admirable, but Liz hates everything. So it seems that the bar is pretty low for her.
She really like intimidates him all the way out of the house. So they like both stand up and she's just like, you need to get out of my house. I hate you, Joey. I hate you. Get out of my house.
I
it's
love
like
it.
really it's like kind of scary. It's amazing. It's exactly what needed to happen. And I'm so glad that she felt comfortable enough to like use the way that she was feeling to just get him out of the situation, that she didn't get like scared or anything. Like it worked out for her that she was able to like use that energy to just like remove him from the situation entirely.
I really had to hold back on this take for this episode because I know it's kind of garbage, but I also still got to give it up once again to the Joey character for being so good at like absorbing heel heat throughout an episode. And like by that I mean he just like acts like such a shitbag like the whole time. Even the other like his friends are done with him within the first like minute of this episode, and we are left to deal with him and like his horrific antics. We kind of saw this previously. Mary, you mentioned this, or somebody mentioned this earlier, that in The Great Race, like he is bullying like Melanie, like he's body shaming her. Snake is even like, yeah, he does that to me too. And so kind of like in The Great Race where he gets dumped in the water, by the time we get to the scene, we're like so ready for this dude to get his shit wrecked. Yeah. It's like so satisfying like to see the way that like Liz kind of handles herself. And like for me, it's like wishful thinking that she would have like kicked his ass, like kicked him in the nuts or something. But then
use those boots for good.
But so like even just the more realistic act of her like just telling him off and shoving him out the door is like, it's very like cathartic to like watch. And so, I mean, like you don't get there without creating that much tension by what the Joey character like does throughout the whole episode. And like, that's gotta be like hard to portray as like an actor at this age. It's just a lot. And I think it's cool that like he's like, I don't know. I just love it. I just love this, like the way they handle this on this show.
I love that she harnesses like every ounce of her thunder to just get him out of her house. I love that so far we've seen a lot of different responses to this sort of coercion. And, you know, in the episode where Stephanie goes on the date with Damon King, she's like, if you touch me, I'll scream. You know, she like takes matters into her own hands. And you know, I think that it's a really good thing for them to be showing young women on television who are saying no and who are confident, you know what I mean, in that decision.
Yeah.
And
right.
And I think that it builds confidence in maybe viewers.
Yeah.
Because it's also offering different ways of saying no.
Yeah.
So Stephanie is probably not going to like intimidate somebody because it's not really her. And an adult man, right? The power dynamics are different. So she responds in a different way. But like Liz is obviously like a little bit more comfortable, like being more like physically kind of intimidating. She's like walking him back like out of the house. So it is sort of like, not everyone's the same. Not everyone's going to react in the same way, but there's different ways that you can respond when you're feeling really uncomfortable in a situation like this.
And so, yeah, you're right. We're seeing different ways of saying no, different ways of navigating these situations, you know, different personality types.
Yeah. And even though Liz is like a badass here, like once Joey leaves, like she still lays down on her couch and cries. Like this is still a really like emotionally upsetting situation. It's not like just because someone can like, you know, be aggressive or be kind of badass doesn't mean that they don't have the same like feelings that anyone else does. So I actually like that, you know, they show her being tough, but then they also show her being sensitive and how much this like really upset her. Like the study session did not go at all the way that she thought it was going to go. And the fact that, you know, she told her mom to trust her, and then Joey came into her house, like, trying to get her to, like, do exactly what her mom was worried about in the first place. And so it felt like everyone was thinking something like this was going to happen except for her. So I'm sure in some way she also probably was, like, blaming herself a little bit.
Well, and I think
for not seeing it.
Even, you know, to add on to that, I think that she thought that this was her chance at having a friend. She thought she liked him. I'm sure she's also feeling very alone. She's feeling betrayed. She's feeling vulnerable. And she's someone who puts on kind of an angry face to the world, probably to shield herself from that vulnerability instead of making herself available to people and putting herself out there to make new friends. She kind of dismisses everyone as being preppy. She says that they're snobs. She's just, I think, very worried about people not accepting her. And now she's probably having that moment of realization that this was the one person that she was going to be friends with, or that she thought she was friends with. And he's completely betrayed her trust, and he's completely put her in this situation that's really unfair and really inappropriate and really dangerous.
And she really liked him. And it doesn't feel like someone likes you when they were just trying to have sex with you.
Yeah.
So she thought that they were developing this, like, this friendship, like this maybe relationship where they mutually liked each other. And now it's like, oh, he didn't like me. He was just saying those things to me because he was trying to have sex with me.
Yep, absolutely.
And Joey, sorry, I'm just like, because Joey, like, grabs his groceries and he's kind of like, ah, man, like, in the street. And he just looks stupid.
Bye.
It's like defeat or like disappointment are not the emotions you should be feeling right now. You should be feeling like a predator. Shame. Extreme shame.
All right. So the next day before school, Joey tells Wheels that he really messed up and that Liz didn't want to do anything, and she's really mad. Wheels thinks she'll get over it, but Joey doesn't think so and has now decided that he actually really liked her. And then we end on a freeze frame of Joey.
We get a badass death stare from Liz before that, though. And
oh, yeah.
God, yeah.
She sees them talking, and I think that's when Joey's kind of like, I think she's really mad.
Yeah, dude.
Her eyes do the thing where you, like, drag your thumb across your neck.
I think the actress that plays Liz is, like, she's, like, really good. Like, the previous scene she was, like, really good in, and yeah, she does have a really good death stare for Joey that not everyone could pull off at this age, like, you know, seeming intimidating or, like, aggressive like that, or yeah.
Definitely perfect casting for Liz.
Yes.
Like, I don't love Liz the character, but I think the actress does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else to say about this final scene? Joey is sort of expressing remorse, but, like, it still seems like he doesn't really get. He gets that she's mad, but he doesn't.
Yeah. He's
so
like, his guilt about this is on par with, like, a Louis C.K. apology, like iPhone notes app screen grab. You know the kind I'm talking about. You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just like just saying what you have to say to
It's
move
really
on.
sad that is exactly what it's like, and that shit still exists. It's just fucking digital now.
Yep. It's also just sad that
Gross.
became such a pervasive image.
Oh boy.
Like, you know enough to know that that you were technically wrong and you have to apologize, but it doesn't seem like you've actually gained any kind of deeper understanding or have, like, changed in any kind of meaningful way.
Joeys of the world.
Can't relate.
I related the yick in this one. I usually feel like I'm the person who's trying to like push for someone to just help themselves out, but also with like no real no firsthand understanding of the problem. So I'm just sort of like, well, I don't really know what your deal is, but why don't you just take care of it?
That is you.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, Paul will be like, well, all you have to do is this very obvious thing. So just do it.
And then you'll feel better.
Enneagram 4, baby. I related to Wheels. He's not really making fun of Joey for being a virgin, but he is kind of like, all right, buddy. He also has been the subject of peer pressure, so I think he understands this and he's trying to be the voice of reason. So he's trying to be like, have you considered what happens if Liz does not want to have sex with you? He's also just like, it's okay if you don't want to do it. Maybe just don't. Like asking leading questions and hoping that this guy will come to the correct conclusion, and then being probably very disappointed when he does not.
Yeah, Joey specifically needs very specific advice. You can't really like help him get there on his own.
He won't get there.
No. So as a repeat new kid myself, I obviously related to Liz in this episode. I too know the pain of going to a dorky new school with a bunch of preppies. Although I would have been stoked if someone as cool as Spike had tried to be my friend.
Right?
Yeah. And okay, so actually when I started a new school in 7th grade, this dude asked me out pretty quickly, but we never really hung out outside of school. And so he eventually broke up with me, but then he started like shit talking me to other people. So I confronted him in the hallway one day and he basically ran away like Joey.
Yes. Love that bravery for you.
I know. I don't know why, but I was just like, absolutely not. And this was there was no kind of sexual component to this or anything like that. Yeah, I guess I did have my own Liz experience.
Aw, wait, that's not good though.
Yeah, no.
Oh no.
Not necessarily, but it does feel good to stand up to someone in a situation.
And you're getting to see this play out in a safe
I'm getting to see it play out, and I think that Liz can be proud of herself for the way that she handled what was a very uncomfortable situation.
Hell
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, friends, what did we learn today?
I feel like I guess we learned that there's a healthy way to deal with emerging feelings of sexuality or like emerging sexual feelings, and a shitty way to deal with emerging sexual feelings. So like Arthur realized that his body was starting to change but actively sought information, and Joey chose to invent his own reality. So that's no good.
I think that we learned all about consent, and we also learned not to judge people and their sexual activity based on their appearance. I think we learned that literally any amount of conversation about what another person might want can save a lot of misunderstanding. And we learned that wet dreams are normal.
I'm really glad we learned that.
Me too. It's important.
It is important.
Truly.
That wet dreams and that are normal, and that the menstrual cycle can have a normal variation.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of education in this episode, and we literally learned something today.
True. So also, this week we learned that unfortunately you cannot trust men.
We seem to learn that every week.
Tell me something I don't know.
Joey only sees women as sexual objects and never really considers their feelings. He assumes that Liz will act a certain way because of how she dresses, but Liz also makes assumptions about everyone at Degrassi based on how they dress. But Liz is only isolating herself with her assumptions, while Joey is being actively harmful with his behavior.
Okay, I just want to say that our broom head count for this episode was 3.
Ooh, that's a big one,
That
actually.
is a big one.
Is that the most for a single episode?
I think possibly.
Might be.
Okay.
Cool. You can listen to I'm Sorry, Okay, a Degrassi podcast on Acast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy what we're doing here at I'm Sorry, Okay, be sure to give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks for listening. You can follow us on social media at I'm Sorry Okay Pod. OK is OKAY. And email us at I'mSorryOkPod@gmail.com. That's it for Great Expectations. Next week, we'll be watching Dinner and a Show.